local, late breaking. This is WBAL TV 11 News tonight at 11.
All I can hope is that she's just not a number.
People across the country mourn the lives of the 19 children and 2 adults killed in a shooting at an elementary school in Texas. The changes lawmakers are calling for.
I'm just sick and tired of what's going on. It continues to go on.
And President Biden expresses his frustration with mass shootings in America.
Good evening, I'm Deborah Weiner.
And I'm Andre Hepkins. Thank you for joining us. 21 families are planning funerals in Uvalde, Texas. A gunman terrorized an elementary school, shooting and killing very young students and teachers.
Now investigators are going through the very meticulous process of figuring out why the suspect did it.
11 News anchor Kai Reed is live in the newsroom tonight with the latest. Kai.
Well, Deb and Andre, although there are still a lot of unanswered questions, some new investigation details are coming out. We have a little more insight tonight into the gunman's movements before his attack on that school. According to Texas Governor Greg Abbott, the 18-year-old suspect shot his grandmother before the shooting. She called police, and the suspect then headed toward Robb Elementary School. Meantime, investigators say he crashed his truck and abandoned it in a ditch before going inside the school, barricading himself inside of a classroom and shooting indiscriminately at anyone in his way. Many of the 19 children killed were 4th graders. All of them are 10 years old or younger. The 2 adults killed are teacher Eva Mireles and her co-teacher Irma Garcia. Mireles had been teaching for 17 years. A relative told the New York Times she died trying to protect her students. One of the victims, 10-year-old Lexi Rubio, had just made the honor roll that day. Her father is a law enforcement officer in the town.
All I can hope is that she's just not a number. Hopefully something gets resolved. That's all we ask. Hopefully something gets resolved.
As far as why the suspect attacked the school, local and federal law enforcement officials tell NBC News Robb Elementary School appears to have been his intended target, but they don't know what his motive was. Governor Abbott talked about the suspect's social media posts describing his intent to shoot his grandmother and to shoot up an elementary school. The shooter's aunt and grandfather spoke today as well.
And regarding the boy, what can you tell us about your grandson? Did you ever know he had firearms? No, I didn't know. If I'd had known, I would have reported him.
There was a lot of things. Everybody has all these misconceptions of him and missed things, and everybody saying that they knew him, they didn't know him. Nobody knew him. Nobody was there with him. I lived with him in the home. Like, nobody knew what he was going through. Nobody.
Investigators say the gunman had 2 AR-15 style long rifles, which he bought legally last week for his 18th birthday, and it appears he did not have an adult criminal record. Live in the newsroom tonight, Kai Reed, WBAL TV 11 News.
Kai, thank you. In the coming days, President Biden and First Lady Jill Biden will travel to Texas to meet with the Uvalde community. Today, he expressed his frustration with the number of mass shootings in the United States.
And we must ask, when in God's name will we do what needs to be done to, if not completely stop, fundamentally change the amount of the carnage that goes on in this country? To state the obvious, and Corey and a lot of other people here, I'm sick and tired. I'm just sick and tired of what's going on. It continues to go on.
The president also urged the Senate to confirm his nominee to lead the ATF Bureau. The Bureau has been without a permanent director since 2013.
Meanwhile, in Washington, there's a resounding push from Democrats to pass gun reform legislation. But despite the bloodshed in Texas, lawmakers on Capitol Hill are not dealing with the aftermath in a bipartisan manner.
What about getting rid of AR-15s? Why are these semi-automatic rifles necessary?
If people want to talk about banning specific guns, they should propose that, but it wouldn't prevent these shootings.
The idea that you can't prevent evil with a law doesn't mean we give up as a civilization. It means we keep on trying, knowing that we'll never be perfect, but we can still save lives.
Senator Chuck Schumer set in motion a pair of background check bills today, but there's no vote scheduled on that legislation. Maryland's congressional leaders are reacting to the massacre, from social media to statements and Zoom calls. Our state's members of the U.S. House and Senate are weighing in tonight. A statement from Democrat U.S. Senator Chris Van Hollen reads, quote, As a father, I can only imagine the crushing pain experienced by these parents in Texas. As a lawmaker, I am deeply angered by the shameful refusal of my GOP colleagues to take the action to end the horror of the status quo. Maryland's 3rd and 7th District Democrats, Congressman Kwesi Mfume and John Sarbanes, also expressed their frustrations.
Let's go do something to show that we are not powerless in the face of gun violence.
And how do you thwart mental illness and evil except to find a way to better fortify our schools and some of the other soft targets, but to also find a way to cut down on the accessibility of weapons.
Congressman Mfume is pushing to close a loophole in the background check law and co-sponsoring a measure to ban assault-style weapons. Maryland's Republican Congressman, 1st District Representative Andy Harris, has not responded to our requests for an interview, comment, or statement. Deb.
Andre, school districts across the country and right here in Maryland are responding to the Texas tragedy. Baltimore County was among the school systems stepping up security today. Police resource officers who are on campus at middle and high schools were also dispatched to some elementary schools. The county school superintendent says he went a step further by making counselors available to both students and support staff.
We know this can be troubling, not only just at an elementary school, but any of our schools. And many times our students want to talk about it. So we do provide that space if they want to have conversations.
The superintendent's comments came during a groundbreaking at Pine Grove Middle School. He says Pine Grove is one of the schools which will have added building security measures. After many mass shootings, some lawmakers and national organizations have been quick to blame mental illness, saying that's to blame for why these massacres keep happening and that more gun control is not the answer. So is mental illness really the reason why America has so many shootings compared to other countries? We asked Chief National Investigative Correspondent Mark Albert to get the facts for us from Washington.
In tonight's Commitment 2022 report, Maryland gubernatorial hopeful Wes Moore is calling on Governor Larry Hogan to do something to address violence in Baltimore City.
People have the right to feel safe in their own communities. Children have the right to grow up without fear. And public officials can never default on that right.
Moore sent a letter to the governor outlining these concerns. He says this issue cannot wait until after the November general election. Making city, state, and federal partnerships stronger is a key part of Moore's proposed crime plan. Should he be elected, Moore says he will increase investments in violence interruption programs and increase resources for state law enforcement agencies. Moore is among 9 Democrats seeking the nomination. The primary is scheduled for July. There are 4 candidates vying for the Republican nomination. Exactly 2 years ago today, George Floyd was killed by a Minneapolis police officer. That killing created a national conversation about race and policing. Today, President Biden is signing what he calls the most significant police reform executive order in decades. Christopher Salas is in our Washington bureau reporting on why the order has limitations. Christopher, thank you. And the president said he delayed signing this executive order, worrying it would undercut the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act that is now stalled in the U.S. Senate.
Andre, tonight, Maryland House Speaker Adrian Jones and Senate President Bill Ferguson are pushing back on the proposal to halt the gas tax hike. The hike is set to take effect in July if the General Assembly doesn't act. Both Governor Hogan and Comptroller Peter Franchot, who is also running for governor, support suspending the tax. However, while Governor Hogan says it's up to the comptroller, the Attorney General's office says the office doesn't have the authority under state law. In a statement, House Speaker Jones and Senate President Ferguson argue temporarily suspending the increase will have long-term consequences, writing in part the suggested elimination of the 6-cent per gallon inflation adjustment on wholesale gas purchases would not result in Marylanders seeing a price reduction at the pump, but, they said, would be a loss of over $200 million in funding dedicated to the ensuring safety of our state's roads and bridges. They argue big oil companies, they say, are the real problem. People in one Baltimore City neighborhood are drawing up plans for a new park. Community leaders in Howard Park said they have started clearing an area for the idea, and they're in the process of getting funding for it. 11 News reporter Kyrie Stewart joins us live tonight with more. Hey, Kyrie.
In tonight's Consumer Alert, the federal government made major moves to address the ongoing baby formula crisis. Today, more than 100,000 pounds of infant formula arrived at Dulles International Airport from Germany. It's the second international shipment under President Biden's Operation Fly formula plan. The formula was shipped to a Nestle distribution center in Pennsylvania. The shipment arrived the same day formula manufacturers got grilled by lawmakers on Capitol Hill. The FDA commissioner also got quizzed about the baby formula crisis and promised change.
Students, parents, and faculty at Forest Park High School are recognizing teachers and staff members with surprise love notes. 11 News anchor Ashley Hinson with more on the Fund for Educational Excellence project. Ashley?
Well, Deb, it's called the Share Some Love campaign. Hundreds of appreciation messages were written to the teachers, some of them so meaningful it brought them to tears.